It's Wednesday, July 18th, 2018. Welcome to V10 Sports. And it finally happened. Kawhi's been traded. And let me tell you why this works for everybody. Well, almost everybody. I don't know how it's going to work for Denny Green and Jacob Pottle or whatever his name is. They're minor players in all this, and whatever the first round pick San Antonio gets from Toronto. Who knows? But the major players involved. Let me tell you why this works for everybody. First off, we're going to start with the one that it probably works out for the least, but it will benefit him, and that is DeMar DeRozan. He doesn't want to leave Toronto. He said he doesn't want to leave Toronto. He loves Toronto. It's tough to find NBA superstars that want to play in Canada, just because it costs more to play there, and it's not America. It's what they're used to as America. Most of these are American-born players. They're used to American everything. When you get up there, the channels are different. Just a simple thing like the channels are different on your TV. You're not watching the same stuff. Even though there are packages that you can still watch a lot of American TV up there if you want. Especially these are NBA players. Don't tell me you don't have the money to do it. But everything is just a little bit different. America and Canada, we're neighbors. We're right next to each other, but we still are a little bit different. Now, to me, Canada is a beautiful place. I'd love to go there. I'd love to visit it. Absolutely. But I've been in America my whole life. I don't know if I could, pick myself up from the country I've lived in my whole life and move somewhere else. But that's any country. I don't think there's any country on the planet I could just pick up and move to and live there forever. I've been in America for 44 years, and, I can't imagine living in another country. But that's not to say anything negative about any other country on the planet. It's just tough when you've been born and raised in a place, and then you basically have to live in another place. But for DeRozan, he doesn't want to leave Toronto. And that's sad, because I think the Toronto fans liked him and they wanted him to stay. But as part of the deal, he was the one that went. DeRozan didn't have a no-trade clause. DeRozan really didn't have a say in it, and he wanted to stay. But it will benefit him, because he's going to go to the Spurs, and he might learn a little bit from Popovich. He got benched last year during the playoffs against LeBron and the Cavaliers. They basically said, "You're just not playing good enough. It almost looks like you've quit on us." Now, I don't know. I don't know all of the exacts on that, but DeRozan. If you really want to play for a franchise, you probably need to make sure you're giving it your all at all times. But I think playing for San Antonio and playing in that environment, playing with a bunch of other people who are used to that culture, will benefit DeRozan. Now, he's only got to be there for another 2 or 3 years, but he'll get to be there. So I think it'll benefit DeRozan in the long run. I think he'll feel good about it. He'll maybe discover some of his game that he didn't know he had, because Popovich and his staff will bring it out of him. Now we'll go to Toronto. It benefits Toronto because they get Kawhi Leonard. Now, I know it's just a rental, because a lot of people say, there's no way you're going to sign Kawhi Leonard to a long-term deal. I get it. I pretty much agree with them. I think it's a 98 to 99% chance Kawhi's not going to stay in Toronto. But you have to get away from that DeRozan contract. If you feel like he quit on your team, or if you feel like he's not giving you the best advantage in the playoffs to win, then you have to move on from him. So Toronto basically understands this. They pay Kawhi this year. Maybe they convince him to stay. Why not? You bring him to your city. Maybe he falls in love with Toronto. And he says, you know what? Remember, Kawhi's a different cat. He's not like everybody else. He may go to Toronto and sit there and go, this is home. I got to stay here now. I don't need to play in LA. I'm going to stay here. Maybe he moves to a new country and he finds that he absolutely loves it where he is. We don't know. A lot of us, we've never moved to an entire another country, so we don't know how we'd react when we get there. We can only speculate. So he may sit there and love it. And you would have Kawhi Leonard, who is a really, really good player. Now, the only thing is if he doesn't play hard or if he gives up on the season. But let's say that Kawhi Leonard doesn't put his all into this season. You still only have to have him for 1 year. And then you're out from that contract. You don't have to pay that either. And then you can, if you want, you can start from scratch and start rebuilding your franchise. You get away from DeRozan's contract, you get away from Kawhi's contract, and now you can basically rebuild the team. So it benefits Toronto because if Toronto can convince Kawhi Leonard to stay, it benefits them. If they can't keep Kawhi, they don't have to pay that contract, and they can start over, and they got away from the DeRozan contract. So it benefits Toronto there. The GM in Toronto used to be Denver's either assistant GM or our GM, and I liked the guy. I really did. He's the one that engineered the Carmelo trade to the Knicks, which brought us like Gallinari and Chandler and a bunch of guys. And if it wouldn't have been for Gallinari getting hurt most of the time, Gallinari was a pretty good player. He just was always injured. Wilson Chandler, solid player. Mozgov, big guy in the middle, typical, prototypical center. I liked him. He was decent for us. So I thought he did a really good job to unload. When you know that he was going to be a Knick anyway as a free agent, and we still got a ton of stuff for him. So to me, he did a great job. And I think in this, he did a great job. He unloaded a contract he didn't want anymore in DeRozan's. He's going to bring in an all-star like Kawhi Leonard, who a lot of people consider a top 5 player, and he's got 9 months to convince him, you should stay here. And if he can't, Kawhi goes somewhere else. He gets to blow up the whole thing and start over with, and he gets to rebuild again. And I'm sure he'll do a great job. So it benefits Toronto in a lot of ways. How does it benefit San Antonio? Well, let's look at Kawhi Leonard. How does it benefit Kawhi Leonard? It benefits Kawhi. I know he's kind of not happy that he's going to Toronto, but how does it benefit him? You only got to spend 1 year. This is only 1 more year out of your young life. So if you don't like it, first off, give it a chance. By what I hear, Toronto's a great city. So give it a chance. Embrace the fans while you're there and just give it your all. Don't show what you did in San Antonio, which, in my opinion, I believe he quit. I wouldn't want Kawhi Leonard right now. I believe he has way too much give up in him or quit, or just he's too big of a baby. And remember, that's me from the outside, just as a fan. I'm not an insider. I don't know Popovich. For all I know, I support Popovich, and for all I know, he could be a complete jerk to me, and I'd hate his guts too. So this is all from a fan. This is just from a guy who watching from the fringes, like most of us. I'm not a fan of how Kawhi did this. I am a big supporter of Popovich, so I'm not huge on Kawhi. But this can still benefit him. So he plays for 1 year in Toronto. Give it your all, Kawhi. Try to lead them to a title. Can you imagine taking Toronto to a championship? Do you realize what you could, even if you don't stay in Toronto, you could hang your hat on that forever. Give it your all. Give that city a championship if you can. I bet you, the fans will embrace it. The fans will be happy that he's there. Kawhi, don't disappoint them. And it can benefit you. 1 year in Toronto, you could have a great time. You really could. And then after that, you're a free agent. If you don't want to stay in Toronto, now you get to go where somebody will pay you the big money to come to them. So you'll probably end up with the Clippers. I don't know if you'll end up with the Lakers, only because I don't know. I'm still not sold that Kawhi wants to play second fiddle to LeBron. But if he does still want to go to the Lakers, I guarantee you the Lakers will be a suitor. So it benefits Kawhi just because 1 more year, he doesn't have to play for Popovich also. He is now out from under Popovich. He doesn't have to play in that. He doesn't have to play in that environment. He doesn't have to play in the negative environment that has now been created in San Antonio for him. He can now go somewhere else where he's got a fresh start. Even if it's only for 1 year, he's got a fresh start again, and embrace it. And they'll embrace him, and it'll work out. So it benefits Kawhi in a lot of ways. In 1 year, if he doesn't want to do it, he can go where he wants. Now, how does it benefit the Spurs? Because they're going, well, they got DeRozan, and they got Petal or whatever his name is, and they get a first-round pick, and DeRozan quit on his team in the playoffs, or that's the perception, or that's a rumor, or whatever the case may be, or he just didn't play well in the playoffs, or whatever. But they got DeRozan, pretty good player. And if Popovich can turn them around, or turn him around, I believe in the San Antonio coaching staff. I really do. I believe in the way they do things. Kind of like a lot of people believe in the way the Patriots do it, the Patriot way, and a lot more of the experts, a lot of us fans, we can't stand the Patriots, but there's a lot of people that believe in the Patriot way. Well, I believe in the Spurs way. I believe in the way, they've done it for years. It's a tough market to win in San Antonio, and Popovich has done it. And I believe he can turn a lot of players around. So maybe he can turn DeRozan around in the playoffs and make him a solid playoff competitor. Now, DeRozan's a little weak on the defensive side, and he's not a three-point shooter. But you can, Popovich will find a way to use him and use him correctly. He really will. And maybe, DeRozan will love it there as well. Like I said, give it a chance. Just like I advised Kawhi, go ahead and give it a chance. DeRozan, give it a chance. You may love it. You may absolutely love it. And I think the Spurs fans will love having DeRozan there because Kawhi obviously didn't want to be there anymore. So here's the real way, though, this benefits the Spurs. They basically got, and I know that a lot of people are not going to speculate this, but I am. Popovich got to basically stick it to Kawhi. It's like, you wanted to go to the Lakers? You got to wait a year. Because I'm not going to send you to the Lakers. It's like the Lakers would have had to have offered the house. They would have had to have offered Ingram, Kuzma, Hart, draft picks. They would have had to have offered the house for Popovich to go, well, okay, I guess. I mean, if you're going to give me half your team, half your good players to take them, okay. But there's no way the Lakers, Magic Johnson's not going to do that. Magic understands. He goes, if I'm patient, I'll get Kawhi anyway, so I'm not going to do that. But Popovich gets to say, I'm not sending you to the Lakers. I'll find any other team that'll give me something. And I'm sending you anywhere else. I don't care where it is. If I can get something where I can justify it to the fans, and I think Popovich isn't really the GM. I think they do have a GM in place, but you're telling me they're not running it. I guarantee you Popovich has a huge say in what happens in the front office. I think if it's like when Shanahan was here, I think we had a general manager at the time when Shanahan was the GM, or when Shanahan was the coach of the Broncos. We might have had a GM in place at the time, and it was just like, it was pretty much understood that Shanahan was making most of the deals. And I think Shanahan became the GM. I know we've had it before where our coach was basically, the GM was there for, figurehead purposes mostly. So I think this makes Popovich smile because he didn't send Kawhi where he wanted to go. And I love that it's like, and I like Colin Cowherd. I'm a fan of his show. But Colin Cowherd said, it's like, where else are you going to send him? You can't send him anywhere else but the Lakers. And it's like Kawhi Leonard's doing the power play. Kawhi Leonard's going to win. Well, Kawhi Leonard didn't end up with the Lakers this year. Maybe next year. But he didn't end up with the Lakers this year. But I still believe that at the end of the day, everybody wins. I think that everybody, if they go into it with the right attitude, everybody will come out of this a winner. DeRozan may love it in San Antonio. Kawhi may have a really good time, even if he only spends 1 year in Toronto. He may have a great time. He may love it. The East is not super, super strong, and Kawhi Leonard with the Raptors may be enough to win the East. So why not? Why not take that one big risk? Why not the Raptors just take one last shot? Hey, let's see if we can do this. Take another shot at this. So, and then the Spurs, and also, like I said, for the Raptors, it benefits them because even if Kawhi doesn't stay, you've gotten out of the DeRozan contract. You've gotten, you don't have to pay Kawhi. You can blow the whole thing up now. Maybe you trade Lowry away, or just to kind of say, we just want to start young again. So to me, the Spurs get to say they won in their minds. They won't say it in the press, but in their minds they'll get to say, he demanded a trade to the Lakers, we didn't send him to the Lakers. Or he demanded a trade to LA, we didn't send him to LA. So they'll get to kind of say they won there. Not to mention they still get a solid player in DeRozan. Let's not forget, this DeRozan is a solid player. He's not the greatest player, and he's got some improving to do in the playoffs, but he is a solid player. And that's pretty good to get a solid player like that. The Raptors benefit because they get to bring in a top 5 player like Kawhi Leonard. They get 9 months to try to convince him to stick around. If he doesn't, they got rid of the DeRozan contract. They don't have to pay Kawhi. They maybe trade Lowry, blow up the whole thing, start over. Kawhi, it benefits 1 year in Toronto, and then you're free. You can do what you want. You can sign with Toronto. You can sign with whatever LA team you want. You're free. And DeRozan, I think he's going to a class act franchise. And I think Toronto's a classy franchise. I think that they've done a great job up there, and you never hear any negativity about the franchise. The Raptors have a good franchise. So Kawhi went to another good franchise, well run. It's just unfortunately, it's like people, the NBA players want to play in America. They don't really all the time want to play in, in Canada. But Kawhi, give it a chance. You may love it. You may absolutely love it. Give it a chance. But I still think it benefits all involved. I think DeRozan is going to maybe discover parts of his game he didn't realize he had. I think the leadership there and the coaching will do him good. I think that the Toronto organization is a great organization for Kawhi to go to, even if you only spend a year there. Give it your best. Try to win a title. Win the East. You could probably win the East with Kawhi in that team. So give it a go. I think everybody can benefit from this. I know it's not always, the case, but if you're going to look at value for value, if you're going to look Kawhi for DeRozan, there's no value there. But you also have to understand Kawhi wanted out, and there weren't a lot of places that you could send him. There weren't a lot of people that were bidding real high to get Kawhi for 1 year and are willing to trade a lot of young players away for a risk. Remember, DeRozan's a 9-year vet, so it's not a risk really because he's a 9-year vet. So you're not giving up any real young players except for a draft pick. And it's, if Toronto's really good, that draft pick is going to be really high. So you're going to be picking in the late 20s, with that pick. So it's not going to be a really high first round pick. You're not going to be picking in the lottery. So what do you guys think of the DeRozan for Kawhi trade? Do you think it benefits everybody? Do you think... I don't know. To me, it benefits everybody. I can see the positive for everybody. I just think that right now, if everybody can just go into it with a good attitude, I think everybody could come out of it a winner. Even if it's not this year or the next year, I think everybody can come out a winner in this. So let me know what you think. With all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.